The highest honor awarded by the South Carolina Athletic Trainers Association is the Fred W. Hoover Award of Excellence. This award honors members that have given unselfishly to the association and its membership for many years.
All right, my name is Suji Munn, and today I will be speaking with Bill Warren. So if you want to just quickly introduce yourself for us.
Yes, I am Bill Warren, currently athletic director and assistant athletic trainer at Rockville High School in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So looking forward to the interview.
Amazing. Okay, so our first question, we'll just go ahead and get started. Where did you go to school?
I went to the University of South Carolina.
Oh.
Did my undergrad at USC and was fortunate. I majored in physical education and minored in athletic training. So went through the curriculum program at South Carolina.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And then, okay, you took care of the next question. So your college degree was in physical education, you said?
Yeah, physical education teaching. And I did a minor in athletic training and also did enough science work to get certified in teaching general science and biology. So.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Now, was athletic training not like a main thing you can major in yet?
You could major in it, but I also originally I wanted to get into coaching.
Okay.
I was a real sports addict. In fact, before I got to University of South Carolina, I went to a junior college and played baseball for a year.
Oh, wow,
And
awesome.
then got into physical education and eventually met Melissa Martin, who is the curriculum director for athletic training at South Carolina. So I love sports, and she said, well, you ought to try athletic training. So I got involved. Actually, I needed one class to graduate, and but it was only going to be offered second semester. So I got into athletic training and ended up staying a couple of years longer to get certified.
That's awesome. Did you end up coaching at all?
Yes, my first job, and actually my first two jobs, I was head athletic trainer and assistant basketball coach. So yes, I coached for 14 years as well as athletic training.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So my next question is, how did your career path lead you to South Carolina?
Well, I'm from South Carolina. I grew up in South Carolina, a small town called Allendale, South Carolina, and I've always been a Gamecock fan. And then I went to junior college for a year, and then ended up at University of South Carolina. I went to one of their branches, USC Saucat, and
Okay.
played baseball for a year, and then ended up at University of South Carolina. So always been in South Carolina, and actually all my jobs have been in South Carolina. So.
That's amazing. Awesome. And then our next one, in what ways has athletic training evolved over the years of you practicing athletic training?
Oh wow. I guess number one is numbers. Back when I started, there were not very many athletic trainers out there. So the profession has definitely increased in numbers. In our state, when I took my first job at Greenwood High School, I think in the high school setting, there were maybe 20 of us in the high school settings, and now you got almost 200. So
Wow.
just the fact that the numbers have grown. Also, the number of females involved in athletic training has grown over the years, definitely. Other things, of course, liability issues now are greater, I think, in athletic training than when I started. Um, Also, I think the educational aspect of athletic training has grown as our increase in the number of settings has grown. We're no longer a traditional setting profession now.
Right.
We've branched out, and so that's been a good change for our profession.
Definitely. I definitely agree. So have you always stayed in like the high school, secondary school setting?
Yeah, with my first job, I worked at Greenwood High School for 4 years, and I was their first athletic trainer they ever had at that school. But
Awesome.
during the summer, I also had a PT clinic in town that hired me for the summer. So I had a good relationship with them and the owner, and I actually got some PT experience and found out that I would much rather work in the setting, traditional setting, than a PT clinic. So
Yeah.
that only lasted for about 3 summers. So I
That's a long
definitely
time.
enjoy the athletics part. In the athletic realm. So
For sure. It's way different in a clinic.
yes.
And then what is one experience that still stands out to you over the past all these years?
Oh wow. To narrow it down to one.
Or a couple. I mean, you tell me.
Well, you know, getting to work with some great people. University of South Carolina. I was fortunate enough to work with Jim Price, who is a legend in our field. I got to work with Brainerd Cooper, who is still involved, I think, at the University of South Carolina, but he was good. And I worked with Terry Lewis in football, and he was also well, and got to work with Rod Walters. So getting to work with some quality people over the years, getting to know Fred Hoover has been a real honor over the years in our profession, and really to develop the friendships over the years in our profession and our state with different individuals and role models, and that's been a big memory of mine. Uh, just getting to know people, and they respect what you do, they know what you do. That's been, as far as one moment. I would probably say, in athletic training, uh, getting the opportunity to win the Hoover Award was probably my greatest honor in athletic training, and knowing what it represents and who has it in our state, and the quality of Fred Hoover as a mentor and role model. That's priceless in our profession.
That's great. That's awesome. And then you kind of went into it earlier, but who influenced you during the early days of your career?
Well, I would probably say number one, Melissa Martin. She was the curriculum director at USC there in that time. She was real involved in SCADA, um, and she pulled me into the profession. Just sitting down and meeting with her for 30 minutes, she sold athletic training on me because I grew up. I love science. Originally, I would have wanted to go in pre-med, but of course my grades uh, weren't going to have that. So, but getting to still and be involved in the medical field and adding athletics to it, that was great. Like I said before, Terry Lewis, he was a great teacher in the training room at football at USC. Brainerd Cooper, you don't get a finer individual and teacher than him. And Jim Price, he's a legend in the realm of athletic training. So those are some popular role models. As far as high school go, worked with some great individuals. Scott Douglas, who used to be at Irmo High School, Gary Nelson, Barry Atkinson. Those are some of the true ones that I look for information coming out as a first year athletic trainer. I could lean on them at the high school level.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And then how did you have to endure any battles with the coaching staff members? I guess this is interesting too for you because you were a coach at one point. So
Yeah, I think at the beginning of our profession, you have to sell yourself professionally, and show coaches that you are a professional. You know what you're talking about. I think that takes a little time with any new coaching staff. Um, I've worked at three different places now, and had to sell myself to three different coaching staffs, and but I think that comes with building relationships, and you being able to trust that they're going to do what's best for the athlete, and they can trust you that you're looking out not only for the athlete, but for the team in general. You're not working against them. You're a part of the team. I think that's key in building relationships. And a lot of that's dealt with communication. That's huge. Building a good relationship with every one of your coaches that you work with, and showing that you're a professional. So I think that's key. That's there have been some coaches over the years that have balked the system. I can remember a coach at Northwestern High School, and he's a legend coach in itself, Bob Jenkins. When I first got to Northwestern High School, he would come in my office. He was cross country and a guidance counselor, and he's in the Hall of Fame. But he would come with a different injury every day, just to kind of test me to see if I knew. He would give me the signs and symptoms, and I would tell him what I thought. And he did that for several weeks to kind of test me. So that's one memory over that. But Bob Jenkins was a great coach.
That's tricky though.
Yeah.
That's funny. Wow. So do you think having been a coach already and kind of having that mentality already, that you kind of approached it differently when you were talking to them? Like you kind of knew what was in their head already?
Oh yeah. I think being a coach definitely helped. I think that's a difficult part of the profession these days, is trying to convince coaches that you're with them, you're part of the team, you're there to help them. But like I said, that takes time over the profession. But yeah, definitely being a coach helped me get my foot in the door with relationship with other coaches.
Right. And then what were the hot topics, if you can recall, in athletic training in the earlier years that you were practicing?
Some of the hot topics, definitely equipment fitting, because we were going through a phase back then of who's responsible for equipment fitting. A lot of high school teams had coaches that did it over the years, and then it transitioned to the athletic trainer doing that job. So that was one issue. Rehabilitation. What are the ways you can rehabilitate injuries to get them back faster? It seemed like over the course of the first few years, a lot of doctors, you had the old doctors versus the new doctors. The new doctors were on the cutting edge of rehabilitation. They were into mobility, get them back as quick as possible. Some of the older doctors, let's cast them for 6 weeks, and then you can rehab them. So there was a transition phase, in the early 90s of doctors and the orthopedists, the young versus the old. And I think that was a hot topic back then. Of course, in the late 90s, you got into concussion protocols and concussion bills. A lot of things like that you took up with the legislation. Licensure over the years with athletic training, and we're now going in, of course, certification, the changes of the BOC exam and CEUs, how those have evolved over the years. All that has changed drastically. I think, as a secondary school person, I would like to see more athletic trainers get into the secondary school settings. I think that's where the money is now. We saw changes in the NATA and the curriculum. We went from an internship program back when I was coming through, where you did all the hours, and then you went straight in the curriculum, and now we're at the master's level. So I've watched a lot evolve over the years. All has helped our profession. The only disappointment I would say right now is the pay is still not there. It hasn't changed much over the course of the years. But I think you're going to see an athletic training shortage here, and the demand for pay is going to go up here in the next 10 years. So.
Yeah, I think that's part of our job.
Right.
Going through school right now, try to advocate for ourselves.
Exactly.
Cool. So with those kind of issues, like, did you see yourself getting into not arguments, but like kind of confrontations with the doctors? Because I'm sure you wanted to progress the athletes more.
No, actually, I've been fortunate. I've worked mainly with young, cutting edge orthopedists, and they've taught me so much. Even now, our team doctor here at Rock Hill High, he's in his mid 30s, and he's on the cutting edge of rehabilitation, and always involved. He's on the sidelines, and I've never really had an issue with a doctor, never in working.
So,
I've always been fortunate in the groups that I've worked with. You know, in as an athletic trainer, we talked about coaches and earning your respect. You have to earn your respect with your team positions also. It takes time to prove to themselves that when you send them, it used to be kind of rewarding when you had an MCL sprain or an ACL tear, to when you sent that athlete to the doctor, you sent it with the correct diagnosis, and that earns respect with your doctors.
I'm sure.
That you at least know what you're talking about. So, but yeah, I've been fortunate, never had any arguments with doctors over the years. I've had a lot advocate for me over the years, and that's been very rewarding.
That's awesome. What do you think the next best step for growth is in our profession?
Well, our profession, and I don't know how to word this without, I guess, offending anyone, but I used to go to Capitol Hill Day as part of president, the executive board of SCADA, and meet with the legislatures. And the first word question that came out of their mouth was, "What is your scope of practice?" And I think as athletic trainers, we often we don't want to back ourselves in a corner with our scope of practice, but we have a very broad scope of practice.
Right.
If you look at our practice act in the state of South Carolina, we did that on purpose, setting it up so we could work the different areas of athletic training. So I think as our profession grows, we're going to have to somewhat narrow our scope of practice as athletic trainers. Right now, we're working in industry, we're working in clinical, we're working in hospital systems, as well as the traditional areas of athletic training. And we have a very broad scope of practice right now. So I think that'll be important over the next few years, is to narrow that. We broadened it to get athletic trainers into settings. I think over the next 10 years, the number of athletic trainers is going to drop, and I think that scope of practice is going to have to narrow a little bit in our profession. That's been an important aspect. I also want to continue to see athletic trainers get hired in the secondary school areas. I think it's important that school districts provide funding for full-time athletic trainers. No longer are there the teacher athletic trainer. I feel like I was one of the granddads of that. You don't see them anymore coming out certified to teach. I also hope that our profession, I hope that we haven't made a mistake going to the master's level in our profession, because if the pay does not increase, we're going to lose a lot of good candidates to be athletic trainers to other professions. So hopefully that we made the right direction as a profession going to the master's level. I'm skeptical, but then again, I came from the undergraduate curriculum program. But those are some concerns that I have upcoming with the profession. But like, we're still putting quality athletic trainers out in the profession, which is good to see. I think that's a key. We have to sell ourselves as professionals. I think that's another key to the growth of our profession. So I'm kind of excited in one way, and I'm kind of worried in another way. But definitely the quality of athletic trainers and what they know coming out of college now, and grad programs has definitely increased over the years, and that's exciting.
I was gonna say, if it makes you feel better, I know a ton of students that want to go into the secondary school setting, it like more than college. So
Right.
I think you're gonna see a
Well,
lot.
I think that's where the money is. I hate to say it right now.
Right.
I hate that a lot of our graduates are going into colleges accepting a $20,000 assistant job.
Oof.
They're going to have to start turning down those jobs in order for our pay to go up.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's what the goal is now. And then I think that they're starting to specialize a lot more too, which also is like, should we specialize or should we keep it broad? So I feel like there's a huge argument with that too.
Well,
Still.
Jim Minch and I talk often about this and the direction of our programs, but he does a great job at the University of South Carolina, and he's another one on the cutting edge, and
Right.
he's willing to try things, and what he's implemented at USC has been phenomenal.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. And then for our last question, what advice would you give today's young professionals?
Um, Respect the profession. I think that's number one. Learn as much as you can from as many people as you can. I would caution young professionals today, don't come out of college thinking you know everything. I think you need to learn as you go along. Experience is the key. Um, I would also advise them it's not a 9 to 5 job. Don't look at your clock. Don't look at the watch. It's a type of job that we have to remember we are there to assist an athletic program, and we're part of that athletic program, and we need to put in the time just like these coaches do. uh, with their athletes, we need to be able to put in time with those athletes also. So those are some things I would caution young professionals as they're coming out. Don't look at your watch, and don't think you know it all when you come out, because with experience, comes the learning part. So I think that's the advice I would give all the young professionals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill.
Hey, you're welcome.